Viva Las Vegas, dear Motorsport-Magazin friends and Formula One fans. In the end, this Grand Prix was won by Max Verstappen. He sang the Elvis song on the team radio after another brilliant victory, a hard-fought win after a terrific race. We saw 6 lead changes, some of which took place on the track. There was action everywhere in the field. Normally we somehow get carried away by the fact that second or third place or the points positions were really exciting. No, this time it was exciting everywhere, and also for the win. It was great racing, and perhaps we have to say, sorry, we may have done the race a bit of injustice in the run-up. But why was the racing so exorbitantly good today? We may have seen the best race of the 2023 Formula One season here in Las Vegas. On the one hand, the hard tire worked very, very well, and hardly degraded at all, so the drivers were able to drive at full throttle for a long time. On the other hand, we saw degradation due to graining on the tires that degraded more, and that was not so easy to see through. The teams had no information on this, no historical data, no data from the asphalt, and so on. That's why you could see that Red Bull also had problems, and Leclerc was even able to pass Verstappen. We'll discuss that in more detail in a moment. Then, of course, we've already discussed the track layout in advance, that even if it's not so exciting to drive, it's good for overtaking maneuvers, long straights and slipstream battles. Then there was reason number 4, because there were slipstream battles due to the layout, but also due to the wind. The wind was stronger today, and there was a headwind on the long straight, which of course made the slipstream effect even greater. Long straights are one thing, but the sequence of corners beforehand is another. There are virtually no fast corners here, and it's particularly difficult to follow a car through the fast corners. There's the dirty air, lots of slow corners here. This allows you to keep up and then use the slipstream and the DRS. And I have to say, for me, these overtaking maneuvers were not boring DRS overtaking maneuvers on the straights. The DRS was really perfectly portioned, if you like. Not too early, not too late, so that you didn't just pass boringly on the straight, but you really had to dare to do it in the braking zone, or then sometimes in the corners. We saw some really great maneuvers, racing at its very best. Well done, Las Vegas. Is Toto Wolff right when he says that after Friday with the manhole cover and so on? On race Sunday we've forgotten all about it, and it doesn't matter what happened. Actually, yes, but just before the race there was the news that an American lawyer wants to come to the aid of the 35,000-day ticket holders, and of course that means suing, so things could still get messy for Formula One, American conditions there too. But now we're talking about the good stuff, about racing, about Red Bull versus Ferrari. Apart from Singapore, Ferrari has never been so close to victory. Fred Vasseur summed it up perfectly. Pole position and overtaking Red Bull 3 times and still only finishing second in the end. It's kind of the Charles Leclerc story of the 2023 season. He lost the lead at the start. Max Verstappen started from the dirty side, and there was also a trail of oil left behind because the historic cars that were supposed to take the drivers around the track during the drivers' parade had leaked a little. Nevertheless, Verstappen made it, but not entirely cleanly. He drifted out a bit wide in turn 1. He says he was on the dirty line. He just couldn't turn in and it didn't go any further. The steward said that was too much. He pushed Charles Leclerc off the track. Verstappen got a penalty for that, 5 seconds. Of course, you could have avoided the whole thing by simply saying, okay, I'll give Leclerc this position back. Red Bull decided against it, so the stewards intervened. 5 seconds for Verstappen. In hindsight, Verstappen realized it himself. On the radio he was initially reluctant, as is the case in the cockpit, but then he said, yes, that's fine, it was indeed my fault. Then Verstappen took the lead, but couldn't really pull away, and then, on lap 16, something happened that we probably never thought possible in the 2023 Formula One season. The Ferrari handled the tires better and fought back and was actually able to pass Max Verstappen on the track. Charles Leclerc did it. We all looked. We didn't really know what was happening ourselves. On lap 16 it was time. Verstappen then immediately turned into the pits, graining heavily on the medium tires. He had to drop 5 seconds and fell behind George Russell as a result, so his race was pretty difficult from that point on. But then, while trying to overtake George Russell, there was a small collision between the two. There was debris on the track. The safety car had to come out, and that was, of course, the knockout for Charles Leclerc, if you like. The safety car came at the worst possible time for Sergio Perez at the perfect time. He was in the lead and was actually heading for the pit stop anyway. Then he was able to complete this pit stop almost free of charge. For Charles Leclerc, it was a worst-case scenario because he had only been at the pit stop 5 laps earlier. That's why he didn't pit again, whereas the 2 Red Bull drivers did. As a result, Leclerc was on the old tires at the restart and couldn't leave Sergio Perez behind for too long. So Perez overtook Leclerc again on lap 33, but on lap 35 Leclerc turned it around again when the tires were up to temperature, so he took the lead again. Then things went round behind him. Verstappen passed Perez. 1 lap later, on lap 37, Verstappen passed Leclerc, and then the win was perhaps through at that point. But behind him, second place was still up for grabs between Leclerc and Perez. Leclerc first made a small mistake. Perez went past, and on the very last lap, Leclerc turned the whole thing around. As you can see, there's a lot to tell, a lot to read off the sheet so that I don't forget anything. Incredibly great race up there at the front. Part of it is probably due to the fact that Red Bull chose different rear wings and they didn't really know what to do here. The low downforce rear wing that Verstappen opted for is a bit inefficient. It doesn't work very well, but it helped him to overtake on the straights, but probably also increased tire wear or graining on the medium a bit in the first stint. In the end, it was still another Verstappen victory. Red Bull still has nothing to give away, unfortunately not even to Charles Leclerc. I hope you're a little different. Christmas is just around the corner. You know what's coming. Motorsport-Magazin in the print edition. You can use the link in the video description to go to a page where you can order a gift voucher for your loved ones. Very important at this point, this gift voucher is only for 1 year. The subscription then expires automatically. Unlike our normal regular subscriptions, which are of course still available for you to buy. Now let's talk a bit more about Mercedes, a really bitter race for the Silver Arrows. Lewis Hamilton was hit twice by Oscar Piastri. It ended a bit unfavorably for both of them. Both got away with a flat tire. Lewis Hamilton dropped back to last place and fought his way back to 7th. George Russell in a duel against Verstappen, a bit unfortunate. At first it actually looked as if Verstappen had been a little optimistic and should have taken the penalty. Mercedes also saw it that way at first, but then Russell got the penalty. Mercedes looked at it again and then said in a sportingly fair manner, yes, that's right. Why? Because Verstappen's front axle was already in front of Russell's rear axle and on the inside of the corner. That was determined and defined to be okay, and that's why it was Russell's mistake. He realized that himself. He said he didn't see him, then he simply gave in. The 5-second penalty was, of course, very bitter for him. That dropped him down the field. He ended up in 8th position. Mercedes were really annoyed because the pace was there again. But thanks to unfavorable incidents, they lost a lot of points to Ferrari, so they go into the finale in Abu Dhabi with just a 4-point lead in the Constructors' Championship. And it will be really exciting. Ferrari has the momentum on its side. However, Lando Norris caused the incident of the race on lap 3. He crashed heavily in turn 11. The most important news first. He has since been released from hospital. He was sent there immediately after the accident. He was completely checked over. Everything is okay, so nothing stands in the way of a start in Abu Dhabi. What happened? It looked a bit strange somehow. That's actually a full throttle passage, but the tires were still very cold on lap 3. That means little grip, and above all, they didn't have the right pressure yet. As the air pressure increases, so does the ground clearance of the car. With low air pressure, the car sits a little lower, and he hit a bump in this bend and flew off. He was also unable to catch the oncoming car and crashed into the crash barrier, causing the first safety car. There was definitely a lot of carbon scrap, a lot of damage, but everything went well. And in the end, it's not incidents like that that interest us as Formula One fans, but the great jewels we talked about earlier. Hopefully there will be more of that in a week's time. Now it's time for the entire squad here to head to Abu Dhabi, completely ready and jet-lagged, whatever, and then we'll see you there for the season finale.